The wind screamed through the open rear stairwell of a Boeing 727, 10,000 feet above the black, churning clouds of the Pacific Northwest. A man stood in the doorway, parachute strapped to his back, $200,000 in unmarked 20s tied tightly around his waist, his necktie whipping violently in the freezing slipstream. Behind him, two terrified pilots gripped the controls, certain the bomb in his briefcase could detonate at any second. In front of him was nothing but darkness, rain, and a forest no search team would ever fully map. He looked back once, said nothing, and stepped out into the storm. He was never seen again.
45 years later, the Federal Bureau of Investigation would close the case without ever learning his real name. But to understand how one ordinary-looking man pulled off the only unsolved skyjacking in American history, we have to rewind to a quiet, gray afternoon that felt, at first, like nothing at all. It was November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, at Portland International Airport in Oregon. A man in his mid-40s approached the Northwest Orient Airlines ticket counter, paid $20 in cash, and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle, Washington under the name Dan Cooper. He wore a dark business suit, a white shirt, a narrow black tie with a mother-of-pearl clip, and carried a black attaché case. Witnesses would later describe him as calm, polite, almost forgettable, the kind of man who blended perfectly into a crowd of holiday travelers. He boarded Flight 305, took a seat near the rear of the cabin, ordered a bourbon and soda, and lit the first of many cigarettes. Nothing about him raised alarm. Nothing about him suggested that within the hour, this aircraft would become the center of a national manhunt. Shortly after the plane lifted off, Cooper passed a small folded note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner, 23 years old, who assumed it was a phone number from a lonely businessman and slipped it into her pocket unread. Cooper leaned toward her and quietly insisted she read it immediately. The note was typed in neat block letters, claiming there was a bomb inside his briefcase and demanding $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting on the tarmac in Seattle. Schaffner sat beside him as instructed, and Cooper calmly cracked open the attaché case just enough to reveal a tangle of wires, a battery, and red cylindrical sticks. He never raised his voice. He never seemed nervous. He spoke to her, witnesses later said, with the unsettling courtesy of a man ordering dinner. The pilots radioed the demands ahead to Seattle-Tacoma Airport, and within minutes, the calm of a regional holiday flight exploded into one of the largest live hostage negotiations in American aviation history. Northwest Orient's president personally authorized payment of the full ransom rather than risk the lives of 36 passengers. Federal agents scrambled to assemble $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, secretly photographing every serial number before sealing them into a canvas bag. Military bases were contacted for parachutes capable of a high-altitude jump for nearly 2 hours. Flight 305 circled above Puget Sound in a holding pattern, its passengers oblivious to the quiet, methodical hijacking taking place just rows behind them. While on the ground, the FBI prepared for an operation no one had ever rehearsed. When the aircraft finally touched down in Seattle, Cooper kept his word with chilling precision. He allowed all 36 passengers and 1 flight attendant to disembark in exchange for the money and parachutes, retaining only the cockpit crew and a second stewardess, 22-year-old Tina Mucklow, aboard with him. FBI agents watched helplessly from the tarmac, unable to storm the plane without risking the lives still inside. Cooper instructed the pilots to take off again immediately, fly toward Mexico City at a deliberately low altitude of 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down, flaps lowered, and the rear stairs unlocked and ready to descend mid-flight. It was an extraordinarily specific set of demands, the kind that suggested intimate knowledge of the aircraft's mechanics, raising a chilling possibility investigators could never fully dismiss, that this was not his first time near a cockpit. If you're enjoying these true stories and want more documentaries like this, consider subscribing, because what happened next would baffle federal investigators for the next 4 decades. Now, let's return to the moment everything changed. As the 727 climbed back into the darkening Pacific Northwest sky, 2 F-106 fighter jets trailed silently behind it, ordered to track the aircraft without being seen. Inside the cabin, Tina Mucklow remained alone with Cooper, watching him tie the canvas money bag securely around his waist and methodically check the straps of his parachute, his movements practiced and unhurried, as if rehearsed 100 times before. Near the rugged border between Washington and Oregon, somewhere above dense, freezing wilderness shrouded in rain and near total darkness, Cooper calmly ordered Mucklow forward into the cockpit and sealed the curtains separating. It was the last time another human being would ever see him. At approximately 8:13 p.m., the crew felt it. A sudden, violent change in cabin pressure rippling through the fuselage. The rear stairs had been lowered mid-flight. When the aircraft finally landed in Reno, Nevada, agents stormed the cabin to find it empty. No body, no parachute, no bomb. Only 2 of the 4 parachutes were missing, along with the money and the man who called himself Dan Cooper. He had vanished into a freezing thunderstorm over some of the most unforgiving terrain in the continental United States, wearing nothing but a business suit and loafers, and somehow, impossibly, he was simply gone. For FBI Special Agent Ralph Himmelsbach, this marked the beginning of the longest, most expensive manhunt the Bureau had ever conducted. Search teams combed the dense forests of southwestern Washington for weeks, using helicopters, tracking dogs, and hundreds of ground personnel, finding nothing but rain-soaked wilderness. Theories multiplied by the day. Was Cooper a trained Army paratrooper, capable of surviving a night jump into hostile terrain? Was he a disgraced airline employee with intimate knowledge of the 727's mechanics? Or had the freezing temperatures and brutal winds of that November storm claimed his life within minutes of leaving the aircraft? His body and the money lost forever beneath miles of dense forest. For nearly a decade, the case went cold, an open wound in American law enforcement, with no body, no name, and no closure. Then, in February 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sandy banks of the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington, when he uncovered 3 decaying bundles of cash, partially disintegrated and buried beneath the sediment. FBI forensic analysts confirmed the serial numbers matched the ransom money exactly, dollar for dollar. The discovery reignited national obsession with the case, proving conclusively that Cooper, or at least his money, had ended up somewhere along that river. Yet it answered nothing about the man himself. Had he drowned, his remains carried downstream and scattered across decades of currents? Had he survived the jump, buried the money himself, and walked away into anonymity? The decaying bills offered the only physical proof the hijacking had truly happened, yet brought investigators no closer to a name. Over the following decades, the FBI investigated and ultimately dismissed hundreds of suspects. Richard Floyd McCoy, a Vietnam veteran who carried out a strikingly similar hijacking in 1972, was considered a strong candidate before being ruled out by physical differences noted by witnesses. Kenneth Christensen, a former paratrooper and Northwest Orient employee, drew renewed attention years after his death when family members noticed haunting similarities, though DNA evidence never confirmed a match. Composite sketches drawn from witness descriptions were circulated nationwide, yet none ever led to a confirmed identification. Cooper had calculated something investigators rarely encountered, a crime committed with such precision and restraint that it left almost no trace at all. The FBI formally closed the case in July 2016 after 45 years, thousands of leads, and not a single confirmed answer. D.B. Cooper remains the only unsolved skyjacking in the history of American commercial aviation, a man who stepped into a thunderstorm and somehow disappeared from the world entirely. Florence Schaffner and Tina Mucklow carried the memory of his unnerving calm for the rest of their lives, having sat beside a man capable of extraordinary violence who never once raised his voice. Decades later, his name still echoes through American folklore, immortalized in documentaries, songs, and an annual festival held in his honor near the town where he vanished. He became less a criminal and more a ghost story, a symbol of the one mystery the federal government could never solve, hiding somewhere in the wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, forever just out of reach. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more true documentaries like this one, and watch our next investigation into one of America's most haunting unsolved cases.